Sophia sat at her kitchen table, the morning sunlight slicing through the blinds in pale, sharp lines. Her hands rested on her notebook, but she couldn't summon the focus to write. Instead, a heaviness pressed into her chest, a familiar ache that had been quietly waiting beneath the surface. It began as a whisper. Memories she thought she had tucked away now crept back. The sharp sting of being unseen as a child, the hollow ache when comfort never arrived, the shadow of abandonment that had been shaped so many of her choices. She had worked so hard to move beyond it, to raise and rise above the old wounds, but now they were resurfacing with the force of an unrelenting tide. Christian's absence pressed on her heart like a phantom weight. She had felt the warmth of his presence in dreams, the intimacy of his embrace, yet during the day, the emptiness gnawed at her. Why had he left? Why did her soul still call for him so insistently, even when reason said she should feel anger or confusion? Tears slipped unbidden down her cheeks. She pressed her palms to her eyes as if to hold herself together, yet the flood of emotions would not be contained. Every fiber of her being seemed to demand what the physical world could not give, the comfort of being fully seen, held, and known. And in the quiet of her solitude, Sophia realized something startling. The wounds she felt were not merely about Christian. They were mirrors, reflecting the parts of herself that she had never fully embraced, the child who had longed for safety, the woman who still sought reassurance, the soul who craved recognition and love. The cracks in her armor were painful, but beneath the ache there was also a glimmer. Perhaps this resurfacing was not a setback, but an invitation to look deeper, to confront what she had hidden, and to begin integrating the parts of herself that had always longed for comfort. Sophia walked through the quiet streets, her chest still heavy with the weight of the morning's emotions. She didn't have a destination in mind, only a pull, a subtle nudging guiding her feet toward the little shop she had come to think of as sanctuary. The door jingled softly as she entered, and the familiar scent of herbs, old books, and warm incense wrapped around her like a protective blanket. Edith looked up from her counter, her silver hair catching the soft light, her eyes instantly aware. "You've come," Edith said simply, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I felt you might need this space today." Sophia hesitated, unsure if words could carry the depth of her pain, but the gentle calm in Edith's presence made the walls around her heart soften just enough to let her step fully into the room. She nodded almost imperceptibly and made her way to the small nook at the back, sinking into the cushions as she had always done before, and for a moment silence held them both. Then Edith poured 2 cups of tea, the aroma grounding Sophia further, and placed one before her. "Sit," she said softly. "Breathe. You've been carrying a weight that is not yours alone to bear." Sophia clasped the cup between her hands, feeling the warmth seep into her skin, and finally allowing herself to exhale. In this small familiar sanctuary she felt the first stirrings of safety since the waves of longing and abandonment had resurfaced. Here she realized she could speak. She could unravel the knots in her chest, explore the questions that haunted her waking hours, and perhaps find guidance on navigating the mirror of her own emotions. The shop, Edith's presence, and the rituals of sitting together created a fragile bridge between Sophia's inner turmoil and the possibility of understanding. For the first time that day, she felt that she was not entirely alone. Sophia wrapped her hands around the warm cup of tea, letting its heat anchor her for a moment before speaking. I I don't understand," she began, her voice trembling. "Why does my soul still call to him, even though he left? Even though I know I should be angry, or at least let go, I just—" She trailed off, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. Edith inclined her hand gently, offering no rush, no interpretation. "Go on," she said softly. Sophia took a shaky breath. "I cry at night, and he's there. He holds me, he comforts me, and lets me feel safe. But then I wake up and he's gone, and I feel so abandoned all over again. I feel like no one truly sees me, not the world, not the people around me, not even myself sometimes, and yet my heart keeps reaching for him, needing that connection. I don't understand why." The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered. each one a fragment of the ache that had been building inside her for days. Her chest felt heavy, her throat tight, yet speaking it aloud brought a strange relief, like a valve slowly opening to release the pressure of loneliness and longing. Edith listened with a quiet attentiveness, her presence steady, patient, and unjudging. "What you're describing," she said gently, "is the echo of your own unmet needs, reflected through the connection you share with him. It is normal to feel abandoned when someone you love steps away, and it is natural for your soul to call for the comfort it knows, even if it is not fully understood by your mind." Sophia's eyes welled again, but this time with a mix of sorrow and relief. Finally, someone was holding her words, holding the weight of her heart without trying to fix or dismiss it. She could let the pain be seen, and somehow that made it a little lighter. I just, I want to understand," she whispered, voice breaking. "I want to understand why I feel so held and so abandoned at the same time." Edith reached out, her hand resting lightly on Sophia's. "That is why you are here," she said. "To begin seeing the mirror within the pain. To begin learning that what you feel externally is often a reflection of what lies within, and that by understanding it, you begin to heal." Sophia nodded slowly, letting the words sink in, the first glimmer of clarity threading through the heaviness in her chest. She was beginning to confront the mirror of her own emotions, and for the first time in days, she felt a quiet courage rising alongside the ache. Edith took a slow sip of her tea, letting the warmth settle between them. Her eyes met Sophia's, calm and wavering. "What are you feeling?" she began. "Is what we call the mirror effect. The ache of abandonment, the longing for comfort, the confusion over his absence. They are all reflections of wounds within yourself that have not yet been fully acknowledged." Sophia frowned slightly, trying to grasp the idea. "Reflections? You mean it's not really about him leaving?" Edith shook her head gently. "It is about him, yes, but it is also about you. The soul seeks what it knows, what it craves, and what it remembers needing long before this life. And Christian's presence awakens those parts of you, those deeper inner wounds, so that they can surface, be seen, and eventually healed. The longing you feel, the comfort you receive in dreams, is a mirror showing you what your heart truly needs." She leaned forward slightly, voice soft but firm. "The mirror effect is both a gift and a challenge. It can bring pain because it forces us to confront what we have hidden, denied, or forgotten, but it also brings clarity, insight, and the opportunity for profound growth. Every tear, every ache, every pull of longing is a message from your own soul." Sophia listened, the initial sting of vulnerability slowly giving way to a quiet curiosity. "So, when I feel abandoned, it's not just about him leaving, it's about me seeing what's inside me that still needs to be held." "Yes," Edith replied with a gentle smile, "and you are not alone in this. The mirror does not judge, it simply reflects. Your task is to look, to feel, and to integrate. This is how the soul learns to embrace itself fully. You are being called to recognize your own capacity to love, to comfort, and to hold yourself, even in the absence of others." A subtle warmth spread through Sophia's chest, mingling with the ache that had pressed so heavily all day. For the first time, the pain she carried did not feel chaotic or meaningless. It was a guide, a reflection, a bridge towards understanding herself and the deeper currents of her soul. I I think I understand," she murmured, voice soft but resolute. "It's not easy, but I see now that the pain is a part of the path, not just something to escape from." Edith nodded, her eyes shining with quiet approval. "Exactly. The mirror effect is not a punishment, it is an invitation, and by leaning into it, by allowing yourself to see and feel, you begin the work of the true awakening." After Edith's words settled in her mind, Sophia lingered in the cozy nook of the shop, letting the warmth of tea and the calm presence of her mentor wash over her. The mirror effect, Edith had explained, was not a punishment but a reflection, a way for her own unhealed wounds to surface so she could see, understand, and eventually integrate them. Sophia closed her eyes and allowed herself to trace the threads of her feelings, the abandonment she felt when Christian left, the longing that called her to him at night, the ache of being unseen, all of it began to feel less like random suffering and more like a language her soul had been trying to speak for years. She remembered moments from her childhood when she had yearned for comfort, when small gestures of love had been absent or fleeting. She thought of parts of herself she had hidden, afraid that vulnerability would lead to rejection. And now, in the reflection of her longing for Christian, she could see that the echo of those same needs illuminated in stark, tender light. The recognition brought both sorrow and strange relief. Sorrow because the wounds were real and still tender. Relief because for the first time she understood that her yearning was not a flaw, nor a sign of weakness. It was a guidepost, a way to navigate the terrain of her own heart, to understand what she truly needed to feel whole. Sophia's hands rested on her notebook as she whispered softly to herself, I see it now. The pain is not just about him leaving, it's about what I've never fully held inside. A deep, steady breath followed, and with it came a faint sense of clarity, like the first rays of dawn breaking through a lingering fog. When she opened her eyes, letting them wander over the warm, quiet, cozy shop, and felt a small, undeniable shift, the mirror of pain had been held up, and she had begun to meet it, not with fear or avoidance, but with curiosity and acceptance. It was not complete understanding, not yet, but it was a step, a meaningful one, towards healing and awakening. Sophia stood at the doorway of the little shop, the evening light casting long, soft shadows on the street. The warmth of the tea, the steady presence of Edith, and the clarity she had begun to glimpse within herself all lingered, threading through her chest like a quiet flame. She inhaled deeply, feeling the cool evening air mix with the residual warmth in her body. The ache of longing was still there, subtle and persistent, but it no longer felt like a weight crushing her entirely. Instead, it felt like a signal, a reminder of the parts of herself she was now beginning to see, understand, and to hold. As she walked slowly down the street, she traced the thread of her feelings in her mind, the mirror of pain, the echo of unmet needs, the yearning that drew her to Christian at night. She realized that while she could not erase the ache, she could carry it with awareness, honoring it as a guide rather than a burden. And for the first time that day, she allowed herself a small, genuine smile. It was fragile, almost imperceptible, but it carried a spark of hope. Healing was not a destination. It was a journey, a series of steps, and today she had taken one. Sophia glanced up at the sky, pale and dotted with the first stars of the night. She whispered softly, more to herself than to anyone else, I can hold this. I can hold myself. I am beginning to understand. The street was quiet, the city moving around her, oblivious to the subtle shift in her spirit. And yet within her a small light glimmered, a promise that even in the reflection of pain, love and understanding could be found, and that each step she took was bringing her closer to the wholeness her soul had always sought.